Hey everyone, Jason here. Welcome to my knot channel. So knots can be tied correctly, and of course, they can also be tied incorrectly. But the strange thing about knots is that sometimes when they're tied incorrectly, you're actually tying another knot, just maybe not the knot you were intending to tie. Let's take the square knot, for example. Most of us know that a square knot is tied left over right and then right over left. When we're finished, we've got the square knot. But if we go left over right and then left over right again, we create a granny knot. There are a lot of different knots that can be tied incorrectly, but still create a specific knot. The sheep bend is another example. Most of us know that the sheep bend is a knot that's used to tie or join two ropes together. The sheep bend is one of the first knots taught in a lot of outdoor programs, including scouts and many sailing courses, due to its ease of use. It's also sometimes called the weaver's knot or a Becket bend. However, the term Becket Bend is actually a misname because the Becket Bend is a knot which should be correctly called a Becket Hitch, which has a similar structure but is in a different category of knot because it's tied around a rope eye or another anchor point. It's not a bend because it isn't used to tie two ropes together. The sheep bend is tied by taking the working end of one line in one hand and forming a bight, then passing the working end of the second line beneath and through the bight, wrapping the second line around the bight in the direction that the tail end of the first line is positioned, and then passing the working line under itself, dressing and cinching up the knot. There are a few different variations of the sheep bend, like the double sheep bend and the slipped sheep bend, and we could also argue that the bowline is a variation of the sheep bend. Let me know what you think. Now, there's also this knot. At first glance, it looks a lot like a slipped sheep bend, but looking closer, we can see a difference. This knot is called a lap knot, and it's tied by creating a bight in your first rope. Then, with your second rope, you wrap the first with one complete turn and tuck a bight over itself and then through the loop. From there, again, you cinch your knot up so it's nice and tight. This is the lap knot. And at first glance, like I mentioned, it looks a lot like a sheep bend. And a sheep bend definitely could be mistakenly tied and a lap knot created, especially if you're intending to tie a slipped sheep bend. The lap knot at first glance looks similar to a sheep bend, although one great benefit of the lap knot is that it includes a slip knot, and when tugged, the knot falls completely apart. The disadvantage of the lap knot, similar to when we compare the granny knot and the square knot, is that the lap knot isn't as secure as the sheep bend because it doesn't have that tuck under, and so there isn't as much friction to hold things in place. So there are correct ways to tie a knot and incorrect ways to tie a knot, but sometimes when we tie a knot incorrectly, we can create another knot entirely. The important thing is to tie the one that you need because each knot will perform differently. Let me know if you can think of any other similarly tied knots, knots which can be tied by mistake. Oh, and if you enjoyed Knot Skills and you want to be a part of something really great, KnotSkool has officially opened its doors. Come and explore the fascinating world of knots and enhance your skills today. It's a private, membership-based course and community for people serious about learning knots. KnotSkool offers a range of features designed for serious knot tying enthusiasts. Here are some of the features. Structured courses that include organized learning paths for different skill levels, allowing users to progress at their own pace. The courses themselves focus on a progressive learning curriculum and also contain resources for specific knot types. The courses include an extensive collection of high-quality video tutorials covering a wide variety of knots from basic to advanced. All of the learning modules include step-by-step instructions, clear demonstrations, and multiple angles for optimal learning. There are a lot of different resources for learning knots, but there's only one KnotSkool.